Star. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Awesome. New, what's on the plate today?
Hold on. Don't you ever feel like you want to ask all the listeners, how are you doing? But then it's like, do
How
you
are you
wait for
guys
a pause?
doing? Okay, let's pause. Ready? Hey, everybody, how are you doing? Okay, great. Thanks for just blasting their ears. Sorry about that.
Sorry, not sorry. Okay, so Aleeza, I have a question for you. This is a question that came up with my client, and I know that so many of our listeners have this exact same question because we are in 2021. We're in, I don't know, year 1.5 of dealing with COVID, which brought with it social distancing and virtual dating. And although long distance dating has been something that humans have been doing, not going to say forever, but nearly forever, the numbers have really spiked. And it's interesting to see how that's playing out in relationships, specifically with marriage-minded people who would, under other circumstances, have a much shorter dating process. So I'm going to give you a specific example that I had with a client of mine, and I would love for you to share what can people do in this situation. So my client, let's say, I'm going to switch the details a little bit, but she typically has a 6-month dating timeline. And by typically, I mean, she hasn't done it before, because if she did and she found the right person, then she would be married.
6 months, meaning I'm going to meet somebody, and within 6 months, meaning within 6 months, I'm going to meet somebody and I know it's my person, I'm going to get engaged. Is that what 6 months means?
Yes.
Okay.
And obviously that's not set in stone, but that's how long she feels that she needs to
That's her, what we would like. Yeah, that's her timeline. Great.
Yeah. And she connected with this guy online. They met through a dating site. They were in touch for a while. It's now, let's say, 9 months in, and they met for the first time after 6 months. Okay. So they've been talking for 6 months on a regular basis. They've developed a deep connection. They've developed that emotional connection. They've developed something special enough to keep it going for 6 months, and for them to cross borders into different countries to visit each other. And her first time meeting someone was like, this person was, whoa, not this, like the meeting in person is not driving up with the relationship that I created with this virtual person online. Now,
physically we're talking like I saw the person and I'm like, ew, or our interactions.
That's a part of it, but interactions, mannerisms, just how I feel with that person, how I feel standing next to them, how I feel talking to them. It's different. It's different, not just than texting, but even then video, right? So her question to me was, what do I do now if I am 9 months in and I feel like I should be so much further along in this relationship, because in my head, my timeline was 6 months, and what do I do? I'm not there, and I don't know how much time to give it, because I don't want to lead him on. And obviously we talked about there's always going to be one person who's slower in the relationship, and you're not leading him on. You're giving each other a chance to see if this is the right person for you. But how do we reframe what a timeline looks like? And considering that we're still living in COVID and they're still in 2 different countries and we still have restrictions, what is the best? How do they date? Just spill it all out.
Let me ask a question of clarification. They met once around 6 months. Have they met again? Because they're now at 9 months. Have they met more than once?
Twice. I believe they met twice.
And saw each other for 3, 4, a week at a time. Great.
And they are planning to meet again, at some point in the near future, but nothing super regular, right? They're not seeing each other twice a week. They're not seeing each other twice a month. None of that.
How often are they talking because they're doing virtual dating? How often are they?
I think they're talking on a regular basis, probably a daily basis. I don't know if they're videoing on a daily basis, but they're definitely communicating on a daily basis.
Talking and communicating.
Which is just that much more confusing, because you continue to develop this relationship with this virtual person. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the issue that we're having right now is how do we do the count? And I've had this with clients. They're like, we've been on 5 virtual dates and 3 real dates. And I'm like, they're like, but we've been going out for whatever. They give you all the timelines and they're like, but I don't know how long we've really been going out for. So I think it's an excellent question. And I think it's extremely confusing. So I understand why she called to work with you, because this is complicated.
Yeah.
So it basically goes like this. All of the time that we've spent on the phone or on video, virtually connecting with somebody amounts to something, but it does not amount to the quantity of time in terms of the actual physical time that you have spent together. It doesn't equal that, right? So 6 months of talking and connecting on the phone does not equal 6 months of a relationship. It does in the real world, like we've been together for 6 months. But in terms of us really developing something, we were newly born in our relationship at 6 months because we just met for the very first time. So we need to account for the emotional connection and realize that the physical connection still needs a normal, healthy timeline. So what does that need?
I just want to clarify, Aleeza, when you talk about physical connection, we're not talking about.
I mean, seeing each other,
same space,
being physically in person in the same room. Thank you for the clarification. So they've met twice in 9 months for a week each time period. Okay. So if I'm going to just make it up, a whole week, let's say they've gone out 6 times. So they've gone out a total of 12 times. So if we say on average, we have couples going out twice a week, right? And we pull all this time together, that's like 6 weeks-ish of knowing somebody in person, right? If we were on just a normal dating timeline and they went out for a quantity of 2 weeks total, right? But we divide it out evenly 2 times a week over 6 weeks, it's approximately that much time. So for a 9-month relationship, they're probably at a 6-week mark in terms of how connected I really feel to you. Even though I emotionally feel so much more connected, you're not familiar to me.
But Aleeza, I want to challenge that because I don't feel like they're at the 6-week mark because there's a total imbalance, right? Because even though they're at the 6-week mark with quote unquote in-person dates, they're at the 9-month mark in terms of getting to know each other in XYZ aspects, even though it's not ABC aspects.
Okay, so we are talking about I know you're my person. They're at a 6-week mark for I know you're my person.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't know if you're my person. I've seen you for like 12 times actually in person. I'd like to see you so much more than that. So to me, an ideal meeting schedule would be ideal, okay? Once a month we meet for somewhere between 3 to 5 or 7 days on or off throughout that week. And we see each other once a month. I fly to you, you fly to me. If we can't do it once a month, every 6 weeks. If we can't do it every 6 weeks, 2 months gets really long. I have to tell you, even in COVID, even in any times, long distance dating, anything, more than 6 weeks and I haven't seen you, we are not solidifying our in-person connection of I see you, I know you, you're familiar to me, I like you, I keep seeing you, I keep liking you, I'm building this connection, there's something that's here. Now I could build an emotional connection with you from here until forever and you can be my best friend, but I'm not going to marry you. I'm not going to marry you. I haven't spent enough time with you. I don't know. I mean, like I like you and I like you and I really like you, but you're not familiar to me. I don't like all of you. I'm not used to you. I'm not comfortable with you. I'm not at ease with you. Now, this is specifically for this person that you're asking about. There are other relationships, and I've had couples, they virtually dated, they did video, they did whatever, they met in person, and they're like, it's like you're just here in front of me, but like, I know you, like, I know you, you're like, I've seen you for so long, oh my gosh, like, but it's just you, and everything's normal to them. But for them, they're at a normal timeline. However long they've been dating, it's as if they've been dating that whole time. And the in-person just caught up that emotional connection over 2 months where we never saw each other, 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is.
Right.
For some people it's different, but not for the person that you're describing.
Okay, so 2 comments. Number 1, not for my client, but let's talk about the other person for a second, where that physical in-person connection matches up with the virtual connection. That's amazing. Yep. And they're definitely steps ahead, but I'm tempted to say they're still not at the 9-month mark, because even though they're feeling that connection, it's like that initial spark, right? And you need to spend time together to see, is this the spark that's going to grow into a beautiful, long-lasting flame, or is it fireworks that's going to fizzle out?
Correct.
But they're definitely, go ahead.
Okay. And the problem is we need them to fall. I need them to fall because I need to know, as a couple, do you know how to get up? Because in your relationship over a lifetime together, you will fall. Many times you will fall, but do you as a couple know how to get up? So if we're only in the spark mode, we're still in a very infantile stage of a relationship. You've got to be able to fall, skin your knee, and get back up and keep going and figure out how to do that together. And you need that in-person time. So you might still feel super, super connected, but I wouldn't recommend saying like, great, let's get engaged. How about if you see each other another 4 times in person over 4 more weeks and have more physical time together?
You might have just answered my question.
In time together.
Right. You might have just answered my question, but I wanted to put you on the spot and say, let's say they've been dating virtually for 6 months, they meet, the connection is there. How long should they continue dating in person before saying, I will? Not I do.
Right. I'd love to see another 4 meetings. Like, we meet now, and 2 weeks later we meet again, and 2 weeks later we meet again.
So not 4
again. So not like
4 dates within a week.
No,
4 times.
4 times of meeting a few times each meeting. Times. I want more time. I want more time under our belt. I want to know that everything that you think that you know virtually really is there. And I don't want you to get engaged and be like, I mean, I only saw you 7 times, so I didn't know that about you. No, you got to know.
Right.
You got to know. No surprises. We can't have surprises like that.
Right. Okay. So let's go back to my client, because most people listening and struggling with this are in that place because it's that disconnect and that incongruence of, this is how I feel about virtual you, but this is how I feel about physical you. So I have 2 questions before we wrap this up. Question number 1 is, how am I supposed to look at this timeline? Because on the one hand, I feel like we've been dating for 9 months. On the other hand, I don't know who you are, because all of a sudden I'm getting this totally different vibe. Just to make sense in my head, where do I put myself? And how do I figure out moving forward what I need to do?
Okay. You need more physical time to be in-person dating. You need to be in the same room, in the same place, breathing the same air, or not if you're outside, whatever you want to do. Like, you just need to be together more. Your brain, your eyes physically need to see this person. You need to connect heart to heart. I want to say, anybody who has visual impairments or anything of that nature, you need to hear them. Whatever it is, there has to be physical, I don't want to use the word physical, in-person time together, because I do not mean physical time. We clarified that, but just to clarify, in-person time for me to experience you and you to experience me, right? Right now, if you and I, you're listening to something, or you're watching this, right? If you're listening or you're watching, you have an experience of me. Maybe when you meet me in person, I'll be the same. Maybe I won't. Maybe you'll feel connected. Maybe you won't. Maybe we don't know what's going to happen, but we need consistency, and we need it to happen over and over again in order to know that we built this relationship based on you and me as a human being. I did have a client, they virtually met for 2 months. They were like over the moon. They met in person. I mean, whatever you can get over besides the moon, they were over that too. They one flew to the one place, the other one flew to the other place. They met families. They did that. I'm telling you, within a matter of 4 months, they're like, we're done. And I'm like, you've only seen each other like 8 times. Like, I need a little more something, a little more. They're like, no, we're good. And the families are freaking out and everybody's freaking out. They're like, no, it's been plenty of time because we dated for 2 months virtually first. And they were one of those couples that both moved fast and they both felt connected and they felt the same when they were in person. And like there was nothing that was going to stop them. And they chose to get engaged and they chose to get married and they moved things along very quickly. And everybody ended up going along with it because they were both so sure of it. Right. So when you have two people that are moving at such a pace, you can't do anything to slow it down, even if you want to, but it's not the smart way to go. Right. It's not the sure, confident way. Like, so give it another 2 months. If it's good, it's not going to go bad. It's going to get better. And let's confirm by having that time in person.
That makes sense. Okay. One last question. And you're not going to like, well, Aleeza, you probably will like this. I don't know if our listeners are going to like this so much at first, but I am asking you as someone with far more experience than me, if my line of thinking is correct, because I really want to say that if you being a person in a virtual relationship cannot see each other at least every 6 weeks, don't keep the relationship going. Like, I want you to say, take a break. If you like each other and you think there's potential, take a break until you're ready to date again. And I know that some people feel like, no, we don't want to lose what we had and we have something beautiful. Let's keep it going. But the disadvantage of that is that you're only creating half of a real relationship, because you are getting to know a person, but it's a virtual person.
Right.
So I just want to say, don't. If you can't see each other every 6 weeks, take a break.
So yes, and if this is your world because of COVID and because of your country that you're in and what you're doing and where you're at in life, and if this is the only way you're going to be dating anybody anyway, you have family and you're not going to go out and meet people because of that, whatever your reasons are, I don't even care. But if this is the way that you're going to be dating and it's this or nothing, and your partner that you're dating is willing to go along with it, you could go along with it, but realize that you're taking an enormous risk. And the risk is, I am going to feel so close to you, and I am going to feel so connected to you, and I am going to meet you in person, and it could flop in a second. And we don't want that to happen. So I would like to say, it's not an ideal way to date. It's probably not a smart way to date, to just go along with it without knowing when you're able to meet. And if you can't meet every 6 weeks, it's not the right way to do it. But if it's the only way that you're doing it, we're in unusual circumstances and unusual times, and there could be the off chance that it might work for somebody. And if it's emotionally getting you by right now and it's lifting your spirits, and there's a lot of singles, loneliness, and there's so many things that people are challenged with. If that's what you need right now and the other person is on board, nobody's taking advantage of anybody in their time, whatever. So give it a shot. Sometimes it does end up working out, but more likely than not, it's probably not going to work, because we have to have the in-person meeting to confirm the connection.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to end off and say, and Aleeza, we can just cut this out if you don't like it, but I'm going to say that if you call me for my advice as a coach, because you are lacking clarity in your relationship and you would like clarity in your relationship because you want to stick with your timeline, and you're confused about where this is going, then I will tell you to make an effort to meet at least every 6 weeks or to put it on hold. Is that fair?
Ideally. That's fair. And I think it's ideally, look, if it's 7 weeks, if it's 8 weeks, like you're gonna play with the timeline. You're not gonna,
like 6 weeks this time and 8 weeks next time and 5 weeks after that.
Right.
Okay. But if you're going to tell me, I don't think so, we're going to see each other every 3 months for 2.5 minutes. I mean,
yeah. Right.
All right.
All right. You're a good coach. It's good advice. Awesome. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.